What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Marcus Smart going to the salon so he can get the green dye taken out of his hair and have blue dye put into it. As always, I'm your host, Zach Cronin, and today we're going to be talking about the latest blockbuster trade that has gone down on the eve of the NBA draft. No, I'm not talking about Chris Paul going to the Warriors, news of which broke just mere minutes before I hopped on the mic today. I am, of course, talking about Marcus Smart being involved in a three-team trade between the Washington Wizards, Boston Celtics, and the Memphis Grizzlies. At first, we had the Bradley Beal trade, which I talked about. Now comes the Marcus Smart deal, as I'm going to be calling it. I will probably at some point talk about Jordan Poole getting moved to the Wizards and Chris Paul being brought into Golden State. But I wanted to look at this trade not from Boston's perspective, like how a lot of people have been doing, because in this trade, which of course was courtesy of Woj, courtesy of Shams, basically every notable reporter, this trade sent Kristaps Porzingis to the Celtics, Marcus Smart to the Grizzlies, and Tyus Jones to the Wizards. Tim Bontemps continues to write, as part of the deal, Memphis is sending Boston its first-round pick in Thursday's draft and the Golden State Warriors' top 4 protected pick in 2024, while the Celtics are sending the 35th pick in Thursday's draft to Washington. The Celtics are also sending for Danilo Gallinari and Mike Muscala to Washington as part of the deal. I think that the Boston Celtics angle of this, particularly with them adding Kristaps Porzingis, is a fascinating angle because it almost redefines the entire team in every way imaginable. You add a floor spacing big who can play defense alongside Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford. They also, if I'm not mistaken, are still retaining Malcolm Brogdon because there was an issue with his forearm that the Clippers didn't want to go forward with the trade. But I'm beating around the bush a little too much, I feel like. I think that adding Marcus Smart is a fantastic move for the Memphis Grizzlies. I think they knocked it out of the park with this one, really only parting with Tyus Jones and keeping together a team that last year, again, was the second best team in the Western Conference and could have had a sizable run if it weren't for the issues with Ja Morant and him being in and out of the lineup because of his off the court stuff. They could have also made a deep run if it weren't for the complete deterioration of Dillon Brooks. There was, of course, them also being without Brandon Clark and Steven Adams in the postseason, but you add a guy like Marcus Smart, a former Defensive Player of the Year, multiple-time All-Defensive Team member, arguably the best perimeter defender of his generation, someone who makes clear and palpable impacts on the court, a guy who not only can guard 1, 2s, and 3s, but has also improved drastically as a playmaker and as a point guard, as a facilitator over the last couple of years, and also someone who throughout the playoffs has, or at least over these last 3 seasons, improved from 3 and has become an above average or maybe like an average 3-point shooter. As it stands right now, the Memphis Grizzlies, their payroll breaks down like this. They keep Ja Morant, obviously, Marcus Smart at $18 million a year. You also have Luke Kennard, Desmond Bane, and John Conchar, Jaren Jackson, Brandon Clark, Zaire Williams, Steven Adams, Xavier Tillman. The list goes on and on. More or less, this is almost the exact same team that they had last season. Of course, sans Tyus Jones and obviously sans Dillon Brooks. But you're getting Marcus Smart, a guy who is not only a replacement level player compared to Dillon Brooks, but someone who was better in almost every regard, or at least was better in every regard this past year. I know that Marcus Smart historically, as I already alluded to, does not have the best track record from 3, but I think that what he gives you on his defense, on his playmaking, this guy just plays winning basketball when he's on the court. He impacts the game in ways that no one else on the Celtics was able to outside of Al Horford. He's everywhere on defense. He's always disruptive. He's got great size, great length, good athleticism, fantastic instincts, and above all else, his ability to defend one-on-one is almost unrivaled in the NBA currently, especially on the perimeter. You combine that with, again, his improved passing. He played a lot of point guard for the Celtics this past season. He has improved tremendously as a floor general, as someone who can read the floor, as someone who's gotten smarter, committing fewer turnovers while, of course, inflating his assists. I think that, all around, this is a fantastic deal for Memphis. Marcus Smart is just simply a net positive all around. I saw this tweet. I'm going to try and pull it up from Michael Pina. I don't know how you pronounce his name. I'm going to say Pina, but he writes, have a column about the trade going up shortly, but one of my favorite Marcus Smart stats is that in all 9 of his NBA seasons, he's never had a negative net rating. The Celtics always outscored their opponents with him on the court every year. Remarkable stuff. He is a fantastic player. He's just an all-around fantastic player. He's not an all-star. He's not a star-level player, but he's one of those guys who impacts winning. One of the premier glue guys in the league as it stands. Now, of course, one thing that is going to hamper Memphis going into next season is not Marcus Smart. It's not losing Dillon Brooks. It is being without Ja Morant for the first 25 games of the season. I wanted to get around to making a video on this, and I simply never did. A week or so ago, the NBA, Adam Silver, ruled that Ja Morant will miss the first 25 games of this upcoming season as a result of him being filmed on Instagram Live flashing a firearm in the car with one of his friends. My take on this is I think that this is an appropriate punishment. I'm actually surprised that Adam Silver did not overreact to this situation, especially with there being no precedent for it. I sincerely thought that Ja Morant was going to get the book thrown at him, especially considering he had already had an indiscretion like this in the past. Not even in the past, like mere months before this one occurred. I think that it is a solid punishment. It is not overblown. He's not getting sent to Bolivia. He is allowed to work on himself, get the appropriate counseling. There are a few parameters that he has to meet before being allowed to return. And ultimately, it's not going to keep him away from basketball for that long, but it will keep him away long enough, especially with this summer, to allow him to actually see the error of his ways. And I will say it again, he was being a dumbass in both of these situations, but being a dumbass is not a criminal offense here. I don't believe that he should have been overpunished. I think that how Adam Silver handled it is fine. And I actually give props to Adam Silver for not going over the top and suspending him for 50, 60, potentially even the entire season over something that, again, was not technically illegal and also, fortunately, was a situation wherein nobody got hurt. Now, in Ja's absence, Marcus Smart appears to be the number one point guard option for them. Their offense is going to be excruciatingly difficult to watch during these times, I think, because Ja Morant just brings so much to this team. His ability to get into the paint, his ability to attack. I mean, he will probably at some point find his three-point shot, but just the electricity he brings to this offense is not easily replicable. Of course, you still do have Desmond Bane, who has blossomed into a fantastic offensive player in his own right. You do have Jaren Jackson as well, so I don't think that Memphis will be the worst offense in the league. I do, however, think they'll probably hover around like 16th, 17th, 18th until Ja comes back, but this defense is going to be phenomenal. You have Marcus Smart on the perimeter and a steady rotation of Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Clark, and Steven Adams on the interior. It is going to be a huge pain in the ass for any team in the league to score on this unit. You have a guy in Marcus Smart who can defend every premier perimeter player in the NBA and do it quite effectively. You have, again, great size with Jaren Jackson Jr., the defensive player of the year, electrifying shot blocker, incredible in every way. Steven Adams, a guy who may not be known for his shot blocking abilities, but is one of the better rebounders in the league. And of course, the hardest part of playing defense is finishing the possession, and you need to finish that out with the rebound. Brandon Clark as well. I just think that Memphis patched really what was their only hole. Watching them towards the end of the year, watching them throughout the postseason, it wasn't guys being in and out of the lineup. It wasn't Desmond Bane not showing up. It wasn't Ja Morant not showing up. It was Dillon Brooks. And, I've been shitting on Dillon Brooks for a little bit now. I'm not trying to, dump on him too much, but throughout these playoffs, the fact of the matter was he was a negative asset to Memphis. He's not that great of a defender, or he wasn't performing up to the level that maybe we thought of him. And he's a nothing burger on offense. He can't play make, he can't shoot, he can't create shots for himself. He was a detriment to Memphis in these past playoffs. Marcus Smart does not have any of those downsides. Again, the biggest downside with his offense is simply the fact that he can't shoot, but that's something historically that, again, he's never been able to do. And still, through it all, he's found other ways to impact winning. So I like this trade a lot for Memphis. I'm still trying to figure out how I like all of this for Boston. It's going to be fascinating to see how their team and how Joe Mazzulla and the staff orchestrates this, because I'm just looking at their positional spending, and I lied. I said I wasn't going to get into it. But currently, Malcolm Brogdon's still on the roster, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Porzingis, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Robert Williams, Al Horford. Like, this is still a formidable team in the Eastern Conference that, again, brings a new dynamic with adding KP, who's just coming off the best season of his career. But what is the point guard play going to look like? What is the backcourt going to look like? Kristaps Porzingis does not give you that in any way. Listen, he's a fantastic scorer. I mean, he's really, like, he has blossomed. Tingus Pingus has blossomed into a remarkable offensive talent. Just got done averaging damn near 24 points a night on like 38% shooting from three, averaged 1.5 blocks per game. The Celtics offense is going to continue to be dynamic. I do still wonder, where is the offense going to come from at the guard spot? And even, like, more importantly, I mean, they still do have Derek White, but man, like, having a Derek White, Marcus Smart backcourt was a huge advantage for Boston. Having, like, just a lockdown backcourt at your disposal is something that, coaches would kill for. I don't necessarily think that, they got shafted or anything. I just want to see how this team adapts. I'm really interested to see how they utilize KP. I do think that they were trying to replicate like a double center lineup, but you can't do that with Al Horford and Robert Williams, because neither of them are particularly proficient perimeter players. Al Horford can knock down a three every now and then, but that's not where his game is. I mean, he's not much of an offensive player. Like, he's not much of a volume offensive player, I should say. But when he does operate, he operates in the paint. He operates on the low block. He operates around the elbows. Kristaps Porzingis is almost the antithesis of that. He can play with his back to the basket, but being a European big, he is more accustomed with playing on the perimeter. He can space the floor. So I think that, like, it's going to be very difficult for teams in the Eastern Conference to game plan against that, because, you can't just not defend KP, and you can't just not defend Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I'm thinking of it like, if you were to run pick and roll with either Jason Tatum and Al Horford or Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they're no longer swinging it to Marcus Smart on the perimeter. They're swinging it to Kristaps Porzingis. They're swinging it to a legitimately lethal three-point shooter. It opens up so many things in the offense that they weren't really getting from Marcus Smart. So I think that that's going to be a fascinating dynamic. I think that both of these teams, Memphis definitely got better. I will say that this was like a B+, A- trade for them. Maybe even like an A+ trade, I would dare say. Boston, I'm hesitant. I think this was a B for them. I do think that losing Marcus Smart will be hurtful. It will hurt them, particularly on defense. But adding Kristaps Porzingis it's a very, very solid move by Brad Stevens. So yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give Memphis an A+ on trading for Marcus Smart. I'm gonna give Boston a B for trading for Kristaps Porzingis. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out this video. Thank you guys so very much for coming to hang out with me today. As always, everything I'm associated with is down in the description box below. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to this channel. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Of course, leave a comment as well. It really helps out with the algorithm. And with that, I'll catch y'all in the next one.